Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order, and I'll start with the governor's pronouncement. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 28th, 2025 signing of Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law until June 30th, 2027, this meeting of the Chatham Summer Residence Advisory Committee is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 508-945-4410, conference ID 203-386-491#, or they can join the meeting online via the Microsoft Teams link posted in the agenda. And now if we can establish a quorum, we'll do a roll call. Start with Jamie.
Jamie Meehan, aye.
Tracy Golden, present.
Stuart Green, present.
Jeff Spalter, present.
Tina Mead, present.
Bill Richardson, present.
Tom Garvey, present.
Don Drinkwater, present.
Frank Pinto, present. Roger Donald, aye.
Ron Manderscheid, present.
Great, thank you. We've got a quorum. And with that, I'll hand this off to our town moderator, Bill Litchfield. And Bill, we very much appreciate you taking the time to join us this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Good evening. My name is Bill Litchfield. I am, as Chairman Spalter mentioned, the town moderator. First, folks in the back, there are at least 3 more seats down here, right in the front row. Town Manager Goldsmith will not bite you, so it's very safe to come and sit by her. And if we run out, I understand there is also alternate seating in the small meeting room around the corner where you will be able to follow along with the meeting. I'd like to welcome you all to the 79th Annual Summertown Meeting. For those of you who are new to this proceeding, Chatham has had this forum since the late 1940s when the Chamber of Commerce and some local officials decided that it would be useful to have a session to share information and concerns with our many seasonal residents. That developed into a long-standing tradition of a healthy dialogue between town officials and non-voting taxpayers. Subsequently, the Summer Residence Advisory Committee, originally named the Non-Voting Taxpayers Committee, was established by a vote of the annual town meeting back in 1997, I believe it was. So this is the SRAC's 28th year responsor. It is, as far as I know, the only formally established body like it in the Commonwealth. It's an official agency of the town, and we're fortunate to have an active and concerned and forthright group of committee members. They all introduced themselves briefly when they indicated their presence, but I'll give you a little bit of information about them because they may be your neighbors either in your hometowns or here. The chair is Jeff Spalter, who lives in Longboat Key, Florida, when he's not here, and on Barcliff Avenue when he is. Stuart Green, the vice chair to Jeff's left, lives in Chestnut Hill outside of Boston and down in the Old Village during the summer season. Tom Garvey, the secretary, is from Texas, Dallas, Texas, and on Battlefield Road when he is fortunate enough to be here. Ron Manderscheid over at the far side is in Potomac, Maryland in the off-season, and up on Great Hill, Horizon Drive when he is here. Jamie Meehan, to my right, is from Parkland, Florida, and Linden Tree Lane, more or less in the center of town. Roger Donald over there is from Naples, Florida, and West Chatham. Joel Rotner regrets that he could not be here. Joel lives in West Hartford and on Shore Road. Tina Mead, sort of in the middle, is from Washington, D.C. and Shattuck Place downtown. Tracy Golden, to my right, is from St. Simon's Island, Georgia, and lives in Woodcarver Knoll on the way to West Chatham. Phil Richardson always comes the furthest. He's from Tiburon, California, and lives downtown. Don Drinkwater is an associate member, lives in Carlisle, Mass. And Battlefield Road, and Frank Pinto, next to him, is also an associate member who lives in Wellesley and on Queen Anne Road. We're fortunate to have all of our select board present, either in person or remotely. Dean Nicastro, the chair, will be speaking to you later. Shireen Davis is here remotely, and Jeff Dykens, Corey Metters, and our newest member, Stuart Smith, along with our town manager, Jill Goldsmith, are all here. And at the risk of missing someone, Jill was kind enough to give me a list of department heads who are here in town staff. Some of them are remote, but our Director of Community Services, Leah Lacrosse, Director of Natural Resources, Greg Berman, Director of Public Works, Rob Faley, our Finance Director, Carrie Mazzarol, Police Chief Mike Anderson is in the rear. Justin Tavano, our Fire Chief, is here remotely. Our Deputy Fire Chief, Ryan Clark, the same. Our Projects and Operations Administrator, Terry Whalen, is here, along with our Town Clerk, Julie Smith, our Housing and Sustainability Director, Gloria McPherson, who is remote. Our Director of Information Technology, Craig Rowe, is here, and I believe our Health Agent, Judy Giorgio, is here as well. My apologies to anyone I've missed, but with that, I'd like to turn the meeting back to the chair, Jeff Spalter.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Well, welcome to the 79th Chatham Summer Town Meeting hosted by the Summer Residents Advisory Committee. My name is Jeff Spalter, and I'm the chair, and excited to be here this evening with you all. This is a great opportunity for you to hear from and engage with town leadership, and for us to share the work that we've done on issues that we believe are important to you and to the town. I'm going to try and master technology. So we'll review the agenda, but first we really would like to thank the town, and especially our town manager, Jill Goldsmith, and her team for taking the time to meet with us and to provide amazing support. Without Kathy Lewis and Shauna Neely, we'd be in trouble. And special thanks to Brianna from Chatham TV for helping us out this evening. And we really do appreciate the Select Board coming in this evening, and we really appreciate the access that they provide on a continual basis. So let's look at the agenda for the evening. Select Board Chair Dean Nicastro, who is also our liaison to the board, will make some opening remarks, followed by Town Manager Jill Goldsmith, who will share some highlights on key town issues. I'll then come back and talk about the issues we've been working on this year, along with the sewer project update from DPW Manager Rob Faley. And then we'll end with Q&As. We have the room until 9. Hopefully, that's long enough to get through all of your questions. Town Moderator Litchfield will handle the Q&As at the end of the session. There are index cards available at the table up front for those who would like to submit a question. Please hand them to Jamie Meehan, who's at my left, your right, or you can raise your hand and we'll get you to the microphone in the middle of the room or the podium off to the side. If we don't get to your question for some reason, you can use the standard town protocol and contact any of the town staff or the town manager, Jill, through email. And I'll turn it back to the moderator.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Our first speaker this evening is carrying on a tradition which has been a part of, or has been done by his predecessors over the many years, and it's my pleasure to introduce the chair of our Select Board, Dean Nicastro.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Jeff. And good evening, everyone. My thanks to SRAC for the opportunity to offer the welcome of Chatham Select Board to our seasonal residents at this year's annual Summertown meeting. As Bill had suggested, Chatham is unique in giving our summer residents a meaningful voice in our town government, with both committee and summer meeting status. Indeed, a SRAC representative is also afforded the opportunity to speak on articles presented at our regular and special voter town meetings. Additionally, each fall, as part of the town's annual budget summit, among the Select Board, Finance Committee, and school officials, SRAC's written report to the Select Board is included with the budget background materials. If you take nothing else away from tonight's meeting, please be assured that SRAC recommendations on town policies, programs, and projects, and the views of summer residents in general are very much valued, appreciated, and taken seriously. You are all a very important part of the Chatham community and experience. With this said, I want to just briefly touch and highlight a few of the initiatives that have been undertaken over the past year that impact both year-round and seasonal residents. First, with respect to the town's water supply, which is one of the highest goals, if not the highest, that have been set for the town by the Select Board. As many of you know, we have new treatment infrastructure underway, including for PFAS, with respect to 2 wells, wells 5 and 8. And we are finalizing the process of bringing 2 new wells online, wells 10 and 11. With respect to a subject you may have seen in the newspaper, and we just had a meeting of the Select Board a little while ago, the subject of irrigation. The Select Board meeting as Water and Sewer Commissioners voted unanimously to approve adequate rates for usage for unmetered irrigation use. Our intention is to encourage registered and unregistered irrigation usage to install the meter that is required by our regulations. We also approved stiffer fines for noncompliance. With respect to the Center for Active Living, formerly known as the Senior Center, as many of you know, our annual town meeting in May approved $5 million from free cash, no borrowing costs, to re-engineer and renovate the existing building at Stony Hill Road, ending the long journey to bring this project to satisfactory resolution. CFL staffing and programming will soon take up temporary housing at the community center during construction. The selected design engineer, Catalyst, is the same firm that successfully designed the pretty and functional Eldridge Garage structure, which was also recently completed. The target date for completion of the CFL renovation project is July 2026, when you are all back for next season. Also, it is my hope that, subject to Select Board approval and town meeting action as may be necessary, upon your return in 2026, you are going to find paid parking in the downtown lots, a shuttle service, and improved signage to help alleviate the ever-increasing traffic and parking challenges, we might say nightmare, that we face in season. The Cape Cod Commission has prepared a final report, and the town's Parking Solutions Working Group has approved a number of recommendations for the Select Board's consideration. I would add that it is my expectation that Chatham residents and taxpayers will be exempt from paid parking, just as they are at the Eldridge Garage parking lot. Finally, on the human and social side, there are 2 programs you should be aware of that are based in significant part at both the Police Department and the Center for Active Living. We have had for the past year an adult behavioral health clinician working closely with the Police Department. And we also have established the Riders Cove Respite Program that provides daycare to help relieve the caregivers for folks that would benefit from this type of service. These important programs touch more people than one might realize, even in Chatham, and both are available to seasonal residents. We have been busy, and more could be said, but you have a full program tonight, so I'm going to turn it back to our town moderator, and I thank you. We'll certainly be here when we have Q&A time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dean, and again, our thanks to you and your colleagues for being here. It is now my pleasure to introduce our town manager, Jill Goldsmith, who will give you an overview of what's been going on in the town of Chatham of late. Jill.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm just going to try to set up here. Excellent. So, hello, everybody. I'm Jill Goldsmith, your town manager, and I'm also joined by town staff in person and remotely, and it's wonderful to see you tonight. I'm sorry, it's wonderful to see you tonight. Your commitment and your ideas and your love of Chatham are a big part of what makes this community so special. We work hard to keep you connected year-round because your perspectives matter. Today, I'm excited to share our 2025 State of the Town. I'll talk about our goals and our recent accomplishments and the work ahead in areas such as housing, coastal resiliency, and community services. as we continue to deliver services to all community members and with the strong financial planning that keeps Chatham on stable footing. So let's get started with a few stats. Our summer residents, taxpayers, now make up 56% of the town's population, down from 58% of last year. And as of the end of July, we have 6,469 full-time residents. We are a full-service charter community. The charter provides the hierarchy and the roles starting at the top with Chatham voters, and Chatham is an open town meeting whereby any registered voter can participate at town meeting. There's a quorum of 100, but typically we get more than 500 and up to 1,000 members participating. From there, we have the elected select board who were introduced to tonight. There's 5 members, and they are elected at large. Sorry, there's just this, it's going pretty weird. I'm sorry about this. Okay, and then more importantly, to me at least, the select board appoints the town manager, and I'm currently in my 14th year here in Chatham. These are the select board's goals and objectives. They had conducted a review session, a very comprehensive one, in FY 2025, and they came up with these buckets per se of priorities. Most recently, in October of 2024, they reiterated their support. And many of this information can be found in the budget book because it's very important for budgets to be tied to our goals and objectives. For the state of the town, our town valuation is $12,341,273,730. It's about 6.29% increase to FY 2024. Our tax rate is at $3.47 currently. Last year, it was $3.57. And then in the next few weeks, on September 2nd, the Select Board will be voting its tax classification hearing. Our AAA bond rating has been affirmed as of April 23, 2025. This is really important. The higher the bond rating, the lower the interest rates and the cost of borrowing. We've had a AAA bond rating for almost 20 years, so it's really important to me that we maintain it. And then our reserves have been stable and they comply with the town's fiscal policies. Some budget highlights of the past, we called it a stay in the course budget. And of course, we have a digital budget book that's more than just numbers. It gives a full picture of our community, including budget narratives, goals and priorities, org charts, and prior year accomplishments. Our revenues are strong. Our collections of receipts and taxes for grants for FY 25 were very high. Our expenditures, our operating budget is $44,154,028 for FY 26. That amounted to about an 8.19% increase, primarily due to our human capital, our wages and salaries of our employees. Our school assessment, as you know, we participate in a regional school, Monomoy Regional School, with the town of Harwich. And that budget was $11,798,052. That's Chatham's share. Chatham has approximately 23% of the total students enrolled, and our share is based on a rolling 3-year average. We also have a capital budget of 3.1 that was approved, and that's funded through other available funds, not the tax levy. This is for items such as vehicles, equipment, special projects, items that we consider as part of our 5-year capital plan, but it's funded each year. And then new for FY 26, we had 5 new positions. We had a local inspector added due to a state mandate for the short-term rental inspections. We found that we needed an operator marine mechanic for our Harbor Masters Division. We added a police officer and 2 DPW parks, grounds, and cemetery laborers. This was all vetted for about 9 months before town meeting and approved at town meeting. Here's our tax rate history. It's pretty stable, as you can see, going down. The FY 2021 increase, that was the year where we implemented our COVID financial plan. So we actually estimated that receipts would be lower than normal because of the various shutdowns and closures of items that actually provide revenue for us, like the local meals and motel taxes. As you see here, we went down about 10 cents. In FY '25 is at $3.47. This tax rate is all in, so it also includes the 3% for the Community Preservation Act, as well as 1.5% to help offset our other post-employment benefits. These are retirement benefits for town employees of current and past, and also looking future. And our revenues, such as short-term rentals, permits, stickers from the transfer station, other items, they help offset the tax rate. So that's one component, and then of course you know that the town's valuation has increased, and that is another component to having a lower tax rate when values are higher. There's a levy ceiling, I can get more into that. As Chair Nicastro mentioned, we have some really great community initiatives, our social infrastructure. We're very intentional about providing services to all community members. So we have our child voucher program that was funded at town meeting. We have our housing initiatives. This is a great website to check out, and I'll highlight a couple. And then the Writers Code Respite is our adult supportive day program at the Chatham Center for Active Living. During the construction, that will be moved over to the community center, as well as the CFAL staffing. Our Director of Community Services received a grant for the first year of that project, and the subsequent years are funded in our town budget. More community initiatives. The town has intentionally carved out short-term rentals revenue to go towards workforce and housing. And so at this time, it is about $1 million, that's 1%, and it goes directly to the elementary school. Just a couple of years ago, we agreed with our partner, the town of Harwich, that each town would pay for its own elementary school, and that helps contribute to offset the costs, and again, that's non-tax related. And then we have our Dr. Selden Preschool Family Support Program that's funded on an annual basis. We have 7 3-year-olds participating, 10 4-year-olds. The amount available to a family is $5,000 for a 3-year-old, $10,000 for a 4-year-old, and the town pays it directly to the preschool provider. It's a really great program for us. Then the Center for Active Living, again, Chair Nicastro had mentioned this. It was approved at the annual town meeting with no borrowing needed. The status is it's currently in development phase, including the production of bidding documents. During the construction phase, as early as I think October 6th, the CFAL staff and programs will move over to the Chatham Community Center. And then our target completion date is mid to late 2026. And again, this is a renovation, and here's the rendering of what we hope it will look like. We have a lot to talk about for housing. The Select Board has a goal of year-round housing over the next 5 years, that 200 units of affordable and attainable workforce housing will be added around Chatham, dispersed. And we can spend a lot of time talking about it, but we have 2 initiatives in the permitting process right now. We have the Main Street, what's called a 40B application, is before the ZBA. It's rental townhomes and apartments, and that's in West Chatham. The Meeting House Road property, just starting the process of the 40B application, that's rental townhomes and apartments in South Chatham. We have a single-family home at 558 Kroll Road that was purchased by the Affordable Housing Trust that's going to be sold, and that will be ownership with a permanent deed restriction. Our Stepping Stones Road property, that's town property that we had transferred from the school, Monomoy Regional School District, back to the town. And the Select Board will be looking at that likely in mid-September into October, looking at some renderings. They did some preliminary work about a year ago, and hoping to resume that. And then the roadmap for everything housing is in our housing production plan, and that's our 5-year goals and strategies. And it was approved by the state in 2024. A little more detail about the Main Street and Meeting House Road properties. For 1533 Main Street, There's 48 units in 9 structures. The AMI distribution is what is called, from Barnstable County, has an area medium income, and I believe right now it's 124,100 per family. So that number could be adjusted up depending on the number of persons in a household. So when you see a percentage of AMI, that's the annual income of the occupants. It has a community building for occupants and management offices on site. 84 parking spaces, and the next ZBA hearing is coming up on August 21st. So this data is information of what was submitted for permitting, but the Zoning Board of Appeals is doing a very thorough review and hearing abutters' concerns, and it might have a little different layout, but this is the main number of units will be 48, and that will be affordable housing. Zero Meeting House Road, it'll be affordable housing and attainable housing. Zero Meeting House Road has 42 units with 8 structures. The AMI has another distribution based on the 124,100 of Barnstable County. Management offices with outdoor community patios, 57 parking spaces. And again, the first hearing will be with the Zoning Board of Appeals on September 4th, and all of this information's on the town's website with all the designs and renderings. A transfer station is pretty exciting. At the last town meeting, we approved $3.4 million out of free cash, no borrowing authorization needed for transfer station improvements. Our priority 1 right now is about 95% complete. It's employee respite center and equipment bays. And then the next construction phase, which was approved just this past town meeting, was to reconstruct the recycling area and tipping floor. And they're still working on the final design. And hopefully the target date is mid to late 2026. So some safety improvements if you go there, easier access to the various recycling bins, as well as the little shop that we have there. Coastal resiliency, as you can imagine, is a high priority, and our natural resources staff has been really great about seeking grant funding to offsets. This slide talks about our dredging grants that we received for Stage Harbor, as well as 90 Bridge Street. 90 Bridge Street, that's the upweller concept that you see in the slide. We've had great partners with the state for the Seaport Economic Council grant, getting more than $1 million for the Bridge Street project. And our municipal vulnerability preparedness and coastal zone management has helped us with climate adaptation plans for low-lying roads, shoreline nourishment and planning, as well as a grant for Jackknife Beach living shoreline restorations. You heard a little bit about our water quality and our priority to protect and enhance it. This is a slide that talks about a water treatment plant that not only addresses iron and manganese, but it also removes PFAS. That was a substantial borrowing authorization at $19.8 million. And then new wells, exciting, construction is complete, and well 11 has been supplying water, and we're working with the state on the permission to start using well 10, and that's expected anytime. And then if you catch the select board meetings, the second Tuesday of the month, our own DPW Director, Rob Faley, does a substantial report as well as written information in the packet. This is just a picture of the permanent treatment facility at wells 5 and 8. So looking ahead, we're going to have a tax rate hearing before the select board on September 2nd, and I'm looking for bills to be delivered on October 1st. I don't have any information to preview on the new tax rate today. I'm sorry about that, but it will be coming out soon enough. All the select board packets are posted online, which includes robust staff reports. We're also planning for FY27. Our fiscal year in town is July 1st through June 30th, so we're looking ahead to 2027 on October 21st. We also include the Finance Committee and the Monomoy Regional School members who represent Chatham, as well as the administration. We'll work for about another 3 or 4 months on our capital and operating budgets before the Select Board and the Finance Committee, and then it culminates at the 2026 Annual Town Meeting in May. Keeping everybody connected is very important to us, and so one of the community connections that we have is the main sheet. If you don't subscribe. It's information on the website on how to. It's a newsletter that we produce through my office. It gives tidbits of information, looking back at the select board, looking forward at any upcoming events. And to subscribe to it, you just go to Notify Me on the website. And community connections, again, continue with your being connected, whether you're here or not. You can check out Budget Central, Town Meeting Central, the town manager's monthly reports to the select board. And also you can look at building and health permits. We have an online system and it's a portal where if you have a question about a neighbor, you can actually put in their address and find their permitting status. And as well, we have a lot of online opportunities to purchase our beach and transfer station stickers, pay your taxes, and then other areas to look at for annual reports and community voice surveys. Social media is important as well, and here are the town's various social media outlets. And also, again, a way for you to sign up for our Smart 911 for emergency notifications. You could get a text, email, or a phone call. It's really important that we have this opportunity for people to stay connected who don't live here full-time. And then more community connections, Chatham TV, Must See TV. That's the folks behind the booth back there. They do a great backstage series. They have done information on shellfish propagation, dredging at Mill Creek, drinking water wells, snow removal, the herring and new osprey poles, harbor masters buoys, plus every town board and committee. You can either catch it live from this room or you can catch it on demand. And then this is the last slide, I just wanted to note that Chatham's operational success is built not only on sound financial management, but also on the dedication and expertise of our professional staff, Team Chatham, along with strong support of our elected officials, appointed officials, engaged volunteers, and you, our summer residents. Your collective efforts enrich our programs, services, and it's important that we hear your voices. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jill. We appreciate that. For the folks in the back, there is one seat here. There are 2 or 3 over there. If people would like to come down and join us, you're more than welcome to. And Jill, like Dean, Jill will be here for questions at the end of the session. But it is now my pleasure to reintroduce the chair of the SRAC, Jeff Spalter, who will give you an update on activity by the committee in recent period. Jeff.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and Dean and Jill, thank you so much. Why don't we'll briefly talk about the SRAC and who we are and what we do, just to bring everyone up to speed. Some of this you've heard already, as most of you know, and mentioned by the moderator and the select board chair. The summer residents have been meeting for almost 80 years now to discuss issues of common concern and to engage with town officials. Chatham is a bit unique in this manner, providing a direct link between the non-voting taxpayers and town leadership. And personally, I feel pretty fortunate to have this link and really appreciate the strong and positive relationship that we have with the select board and with the town manager. The SRAC, initially named the Non-Voting Taxpayer Advisory Committee, was formed in 1996 with the objective to facilitate communication between the non-voting residents and the select board. Subsequently, we adopted the following as our mission to help more fully meet this objective, which is to give the summer residents a voice, to give the select board the benefit of information and views, to give fresh outlooks to the town, and to take a position and make a case for or against town manners. And that's kind of what this wonderful group of people has been doing. There are currently 12 of us with a wide range of backgrounds. We've got lawyers, finance people, finance and accounting, PhDs, teachers, wealth management, to name a few. So it's a relatively diverse group, at least in terms of background. We meet every Friday during the summer from June through August to address issues that are important to the town and impactful to summer residents. And now we meet remotely for an hour once a month from September through May to keep abreast of some of the key issues that are taking place. On your chair, there's a resource page with links to what we think are some of the most relevant items for summer residents to access on the town website. If you're participating remotely, you can go to our webpage, and you can see that at the bottom of the page there. You can go to our website, and you'll find the resource page. And a special thanks to Tracy Golden for pulling this together for us. And you all are more than welcome to join our meetings in person or remotely. We'd love to have your input. And you really get some great information by participating in any manner. And just a quick PSA, we have an opening on our committee, and we would love to have someone who's interested and energetic join us. And the committee opening is posted on the town website, so if you're interested, we'd love to hear from you. So let's move to the activity overview. And again, we really need to start by thanking Jill and her team for helping us progress all our issues and giving us access to the resources in town. It really makes a difference. Our first task each year is to identify where we'd like to spend our time and energy and leverage the expertise of the group. So in the March and April timeframe, we discuss the issues that are in front of us, what we were working on last year, what's been in the local papers, what are our neighbors talking about, and then we meet with leaders of the different downtown departments throughout the year to find out what's going on and see if any issues surface. Some of the key issues that you're probably quite familiar with have been water availability, short-term rentals, the sewer project, affordable housing, and the senior center. Some issues that we've engaged in the past have really moved forward, such as we heard plans to renovate the Center for Active Living, and land has been acquired, and plans are progressing for affordable and attainable housing, so we opted not to spend as much time in those areas. Last year, we focused on grinder pumps. As you may recall, we actually took a position that the town should pay for the acquisition, installation, and repair of grinder pumps. And earlier this year, the Select Board voted to support the town purchase of grinder pumps and to pay a $2,000 stipend to cover installation. This position was approved at the town meeting in May, and the actual policy is still under development. There has not been resolution yet on how grinder pump repair will be handled, but most of the grinder pump issues have closed down. There's still quite a bit of discussion and education needed around the sewer project, which is underway. In addition to there being a notable cost for each homeowner to hook up to the sewer system, and there's a wide range of estimates from $10,000 to $12,000 or sometimes more, there's an opportunity to reduce the cost by working with neighbors to get economies of scale. Helping homeowners understand more about the connection process and the timing is important. The residential tax exemption has been an issue of growing importance over the past several months, and it did garner a lot of attention during the recent Select Board elections. As there's an upcoming public hearing and then the annual meeting with the tax assessor in the fall to vote on adoption, we've spent an increasing amount of time on this topic. So these two topics are getting more focus from us. And while not focus areas, our committee does monitor a range of topics and emerging issues that are important to all of us. We actually gather some information, and as we may want to address these more fully in the future, and these have been the short-term rental policy, grinder pump repair, personal property taxes, and of course we always keep our eye on town finances. So I'll hit just a few highlights along with input from some of our other team members. We'll start with grinder pump repair. As mentioned earlier at town meeting, the position for the town to pay for grinder pump acquisition and installation was supported. However, there's not yet been resolution on how repairs will be handled. Although the grinder pumps do not typically require much maintenance, we continue to believe that the town needs to have a clear plan on how repairs will be handled, since the grinder pump will become an integral part of the sewer system for the homes where they are installed. A wide range of options exist depending on how much responsibility the town decides it wants to take. This topic will be addressed by the Water and Sewer Committee, and we'll continue to monitor the progress. Short-term rentals is another issue that we're monitoring. This has been an emerging issue for a decade or more. The development of companies like Airbnb and VRBO and very high rental fees, especially since the COVID period, have served as strong inducements for more homeowners to enter the rental market. As a result, Chatham now has nearly 900 houses registered and potentially up to 400 more. We've met with the town health agent, the housing inspector, and the police to learn more about the rental situation in Chatham, registration rates and fees, safety requirements, enforcement, public safety, et cetera. We're now in the process of learning how other similar towns are managing their rental market. And once we have enough information from Chatham and other towns, we may bring forward some recommendations for the town to consider. But this is not an easy issue. And with that, I'd like to ask Ron Manderscheid, who's our point person on this issue, to make a few comments.
Thank you, Jeff, and good evening to you. I'm delighted to be here. So my family has had a home in Chatham for 30 years. My children learned to sail here. They came and grew up with their cousins, so they know who their cousins are, and so on. So we've had a wonderful 30-year period. 30 years ago, the world of Chatham was quite different than it is now. People came here and they spent the entire summer here. Not only homeowners, but also renters. And the culture was a very open and friendly culture. If you fast forward down to today, I would use two words to describe the culture. It's very intense, and it's very anonymous. Intense in the way that Chair DeCastro cited in terms of traffic, beaches, parking, restaurants, et cetera, et cetera. It's very intense in all of those environments, partly due to the nature of short-term rentals and the volume of people who come here and participate in those short-term rentals. Anonymous because you can be in a house and live there for a very long time and you have no idea who's next door to you. And that person may change every few days, basically. Chatham actually permits one-day short-term rentals at present, basically. So we are looking into this issue on the committee and would very much appreciate your input on this issue, as Jeff indicated before. We want to hear from you. What has been your experience in your own neighborhood here with short-term rentals, and what advice do you have? We want to compare what Chatham's doing with Harwich, with Orleans, with Brewster, and with Nantucket as good reference points, but we also want to look at other communities in the United States that may have similar problems and how they have addressed these problems. And by this time next year, we would hope to be back with a series of formal recommendations to put forth from the SHRAC to the Select Board for their consideration. So again, would greatly appreciate your input at any point on this. You can come to our meeting and talk about this. You can be in contact with me. You can be in contact with anybody on the SHRAC committee, and we'd be very glad to hear from you. So thank you very much. Good issue. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you very much, Ron. I appreciate that. And now just a couple of comments about the personal property tax. And as many of you may know, this is a tax that's paid only by part-time residents, and it's based on 2% of a building's assessed value for houses over $500,000 or condos greater than $1 million. The 2% tax rate is determined by our tax assessor and actually represents the aggregated fair market value of personal property for the entire community. So it's not a home-by-home calculation. And I was going to run through a quick calculation, but I think I'm not going to do that. The personal property tax is assessed separately from real estate taxes, and last year the town received about $425,000. And again, this is paid by summer residents. Moving towards the bottom of the page, we've been monitoring the residential tax exemption for several years, for many years, and in the past have issued a formal position against implementation. The residential tax exemption exempts a portion of a full-time resident's property assessed value. So since the total residential tax levy would then be applied over a smaller assessed property value for the town, the result is that the tax rate would increase, resulting in higher taxes paid by part-time residents and some full-time residents. This issue made the cut for us this year, as it was a hot topic during the recent Select Board elections, where several members indicated their support for implementation. And Tom Garvey's been our point person on this, and so I'd ask him if he would share a few thoughts on the rationale for our past position and where we're headed.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, as we have communicated in the past, this committee has been opposed to the residential exemption for a variety of reasons. As Jeff just mentioned, the total property tax levy doesn't change. It just shifts the tax, some of the tax from full-time residents to part-time residents. The exemption would only apply to a full-time resident's primary domicile in Chatham. So if somebody was a full-time resident, had more than one residence here, they would only apply for the they would only qualify for the exemption on their primary domicile. So that's a consideration. If this were to be adopted, this is going to create an additional layer of administration for the assessor's office. So we're concerned about the effort, the potential cost of administering the exemption. As Jeff just mentioned, from an overall fairness perspective, summer residents, about 2,500 summer residents pay the personal property tax today. That's about $425,000. That's not paid at all by the full-time residents. So from a fairness perspective, that's a consideration in our mind. Overall, the summer residents throughout the year really place less demand on overall municipal services. Joe mentioned, the school budget is $12 million. Summer residents aren't enjoying any of the benefit of the school system other than overall town residents going to schools. Overall, we think the exemption is kind of a blunt tool, applied without regard to financial condition of the resident, of the homeowner. We think that overall there are potential solutions to consider. The town and the state do offer existing exemption and deferral programs for seniors, for veterans that have service-related disabilities, for blind people, and for individuals that do have an extreme financial hardship. So we think that those programs should be fully utilized before we really embark on the residential exemption. There's only one thing that we see that is absolutely going to be true. If the exemption is adopted, tax rate goes up. And that would apply to the assessed value of everyone's home. So even some full-time residents that apply for and qualify for the exemption after the increase in rate may pay a higher tax overall. So that we just think that this is something that really needs to be looked at thoroughly. We think that there are other benefits that could be applied than this blunt tool. Bottom line, the exemption doesn't create any additional revenue. It adds some administrative effort that doesn't exist today, and really isn't a tool that will help people that are truly in financial hardship. There is a select board meeting next week. This topic will begin to be discussed, and as Jill mentioned, the Board of Assessors will present recommendations in September on the tax rate. We are going to be monitoring what's going on. We do plan to present comment in the next couple of select board meetings. We have prior position papers that are posted on our website, and we have a new position paper for the current year that we're posting shortly. So we just believe this is something that will not really benefit the town as a whole. Jeff?
Great. Thank you very much, Tom. And again, if there are questions later in the program, we'll be glad to talk about it. So the sewer project is the other significant issue that we're monitoring this year. Again, it's impactful to both summer and full-time residents, and laying the sewer pipe and connecting homes to the line is important to the entire town to reduce the nitrogen load. While we don't have a formal position to take on the sewer project this year, we felt it was important to share as much information as possible with you, and with the help of DPW Manager Rob Faley, we'll get to this in just a moment. We are working with Rob and his team to develop a one-pager that has some key information about the sewer project and what it means to you. specifically key action items as the sewer lines come down your street. And you'll see a draft shortly from Mr. Faley. We plan to have a link to this document on our website to facilitate access for everyone. So that's what we've been doing for the past few months. It's really interesting to have the chance to meet with town officials and staff across such a wide range of topics and issues. And again, I can speak for myself. I've really enjoyed not only learning more about the town and how it operates, but meeting and working with some really great people. So with that, we can turn to the primary topic of the evening, which is the town sewer project. And we've asked Rob Faley, the DPW director, if he would provide some background and education on the project, the who, what, when, and why. Rob, we appreciate you taking this on. And I remember last year we had a topic, Rob came back, there were many questions. We're going to put a chair up here for you this year.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate the opportunity to come here and speak with all of you. Bear with me while I get this loaded. Great. So good evening, everyone. So the focus of my presentation is to answer a few questions brought to my attention by the Summer Residence Advisory Committee, as well as giving a brief update on where we are regarding planning for the future installation around town. So one of the questions I received was, when will I know when my home or street is being sewered? So initially, there will be some early signs, including, select board planning presentations and presentations at town meeting for funding requests. Surveyors will be out on the street collecting data, and we'll send letters out to a few of the property owners that we will be drilling some test borings in front of their house. As we get closer to construction, we'll put updates on the town website with relevant information about the projects. Weekly press releases and social media postings will indicate which roads are being impacted with a 3-week look ahead. Most importantly, letters will be sent out to each property owner that will be directly impacted by those projects. How do I know if I need a grinder pump? So if gravity sewer is installed at the street, the engineer that the property owner or you hire will determine whether a grinder pump is needed. This will be primary based on 2 situations. The first is whether the elevation of the waistline leaving the house is too low to meet the sewer main installed in the street. The second situation is if the distance from the house to the sewer main is too great to keep the proper pitch of the pipe leaving the house. There's also a third situation, which is somewhat rare, that's to avoid, other utilities and wetlands and things of that nature. If the town can't find a piece of land to successfully locate a pump station within a neighborhood, or the terrain is too hilly for gravity sewer, we may make that decision to install low-pressure sewer instead. That means every property connected to that sewer in that area will install their own grinder pump. So we are currently drafting our RFP for grinder pumps. We anticipate using the E1 Model D Series grinder pump, which is the one shown here. The E1 Model D Series that has a wet well, dry well station design. So the upper portion, the upper half is a dry situation. That's where the electrical components connect. The lower portion is where the actual pump, the grinder pump, is located. The capacity is 70 gallons. There's a variable height, so it can fluctuate height as needed. There's some additional features that we will be putting into our RFP that don't come standard, but that's something we would negotiate. And that's for an insulated cover to protect it from frost if the house is unoccupied for long periods of time in the winter. A pigtail for a generator connection, so if you don't have a household generator, you can connect a generator to it to make sure that the tank is evacuated. And also a 5-year extended warranty. They typically come with 1 or 2 year warranties, but we want to make sure that the manufacturer stands by their product for 5 years. So that whole thing that you just saw is going to be buried in the ground, and that's basically what you will see on top of the ground. It's basically a plastic insulated cover. It can be hidden in landscaping beds or wherever it's needed on your lawn. So very little impact to your landscaping and to your property on the surface. Next question is, what will a grinder pump cost? Well, if a homeowner were to go out and purchase one today, then expect to pay around $10,000. The town, because we're purchasing them in bulk, we expect to pay around $6,500 to $7,000. But there will be no cost to property owners because, as Jeff mentioned earlier, that the town has agreed to buy those grinder pumps for anybody who needs it. There's also some financial assistance available to those property owners who qualify, and with this help, the cost of a grinder pump and installation will be similar to that of a gravity sewer connection. So the Summer Residence Advisory Committee asked me about what residents can expect when sewer is installed in front of my house. So the next 3 slides, I'm going to just go over very briefly. We're going to have this, that's the one pager Jeff spoke about, that's going to be up on their website. It's also going to be on the town website at some point. But I don't want to get into a lot of specific detail, but there will be things that the property owner will be responsible for. The property owner will also need to hire an engineer. These slides lay out some of the next steps, you license utility installer, and also apply for a permit. And this last slide just talks about the coordination with the sewer department. If you need a grinder pump, what needs to happen to your existing sewer, your existing septic, and some financial assistance that's available to some residents. Again, this information will be available on the more detail after it's vetted and refined on the town's website. And here we get into a very busy map, so I apologize, but I will go through it in a little bit more detail as we go through it. So this is a map of Chatham, color-coded for all of the Phase 1 sewer projects that we have. It's the implementation plan that we have developed. It's over the next 20 years. It's a very busy map. It is meant as just an overview, and the sequence of slides that I'll show in a few minutes will spell it out in greater detail. Again, this information will also be on the town's website coming up in the near future, where we'll have costs associated with each of the phases. I should note that this map is detailed down to a specific parcel level, but since we haven't surveyed or designed a good portion of the sewer that is yet to come, there may be some neighborhoods or individual parcels that may get pushed to an adjacent project or something like that. So it is not set in stone. It's just a very good planning tool to give people an idea in general of when sewer would be installed in their street. The last year shown is projected to be the year that construction is completed. So say Phase 1 F1 shows from 2024 to 2029. The first 2 years are for survey and design work. Construction will be in the last 3 years. So we would expect any of those parcels within Phase 1 F1 to be available to hook up to sewer in 2029. So this goes for all the phases on the map. So I'll just detail a couple of the upcoming construction projects that are going to be in the next few years. And then I'll just do a very brief blitz through the remainder because there's a lot of information and I don't want to overload everybody. So Contract 1F1 includes the southern end of Cedar Street and some smaller neighborhoods along Route 28 between Meeting House Road and George Ryder Road that were skipped over when the main trunk line was installed on Route 28. These areas will be largely gravity sewer. We've conducted survey and are pursuing soil borings for Contract 1F1. This work includes a pump station on a small town-owned parcel on Cedar Street. So this is a draft site plan for the Cedar Street pump station. We met preliminary with the Zoning Board of Appeals, the Planning Board, and the Conservation Commission. We have hearings scheduled in the next month or two to hopefully have the pump station design approved. We've already submitted the Army Corps of Engineer wetland permits and have been fielding their questions. Landscaping, which you could see in the green highlighted area, has been a renewed focus for us at these pump stations. We want to make sure that they blend in with the surrounding wooded area. This pump station will be surrounded by a 5-foot, 10-inch tall fence that'll be kind of behind the landscaping. All ground surfaces will be porous with either gravel or grass in the openings of the pavers. I don't have a laser pointer, but the round circle on the left is the wet well where the pump would be located. The rectangle towards the middle of it is a generator. All of our pump stations have to have generators at this point. And then off to the right on an angle is all the electronic controls and control panels. This location is at the low point of the road, so we are addressing stormwater issues as well, treating them appropriately with the treatment swale. The treatment swale almost acts like a rain garden, and it wraps around the site. And we are on schedule to have this go out to bid in 2026, with completion expected in 2029. The next phase immediately after that will be focusing on the 1F2, which is the Barn Hill and Katy Ford area. We'll also extend up into Mill Hill, Evans, Terrells, Holly North and South area off of Morton Road, and most importantly, Commerce Park, where hopefully we can address some of the drainage issues there as well. And just very briefly, going through some of the next phases, what we call 1G, Frost Fish Creek, opening in 2033. 1H is River Bay, set for 2035. Phase 1I, Taylor's Pond, Mill Creek, 2037. 1J, Muddy Creek, Bucks Creek, 2039. 1K, Pleasant Bay, 2041. 1L, the South Coast 1 area, 2043. 1M, Chatham Harbor, 2045. 1N, the South Coast 2 area, 2047. And then we get into, that was phase 1, this is phase 2, which would start around 2044, but the time frame has not been determined and the construction sequencing hasn't been determined yet. But these next few slides are all phase 2. And finally, this spreadsheet lays out the timing of each phase 1 project over the next 20 years. It also shows what the expected nitrogen reduction will be for each watershed impacted. And we'll have this information available on the website in the future as well. But that's all I had, and I wanted to thank you, everyone, for your time.
A couple questions about 2047. Rob, that was great. Thank you. Thank you very much. We really appreciate that. And we always appreciate your time and your willingness to engage on these issues. Rob shows up to a lot of our meetings, and there's always a lot of questions for Rob, and he's done a great job of bringing us up to speed, so thank you very much. Uh-oh. Can we get the presentation back up there? So we'll actually be on the last slide. We plan to continue to work with the town to look for opportunities to reduce the sewer hookup costs for all residents. Two areas that we've begun to talk about are the required engineering report and permit costs. But we should look at the entire hookup process to see where we can find efficiencies or savings. More communication from the town that you've already seen is going to be really beneficial so that residents have a better understanding of what's coming their way and when. And the work that's going on has been great so far. This will make it easier for residents and neighbors to aggregate work for contractors and to hopefully lower costs. And again, it's just going to be important to keep in mind that these are all projections. There's a lot of work going on, and none of this can really be set in stone in terms of timing. So it's going to take some flexibility to work with Rob and his team. And actually, that's the last that we have on this topic. Hopefully, we've met the SRAC objectives, which was to give the summer residents a voice, to give the select board the benefit of information and views, to give some fresh outlooks to the town, and to take a position to make a case for or against town matters. And with that, we can move to the Q&As, and I will turn it back over to the moderator.
Thank you very much, Jeff. I share, Rob, I share Jeff's appreciation and all of our appreciation for your efforts. I don't have a lot of handed-in questions yet, and if there are any that you've written down, if you want to pass them along, that would be appreciated, but we can also go without the ones. And I can tell you the one that I have, and Rob, it may be back for you if you want to spend a little bit more time. It's a request to tell us more about the timeline for the specific neighborhoods. In this particular case, the old village, the area surrounded by Mill Pond, and down to the southern end before you get to Morris Island. The questioner is concerned about pollution of the important natural resources in that area and wondered whether that could be or should be a priority area.
Yeah, we work very closely with our design engineer, GHD, who's been with Chatham ever since, well, it was Stearns and Wheeler at the time, but they've been with Chatham ever since. The staff has been with us since the beginning of at least the 2006 watershed permit. We work closely with them to identify the most opportune areas to reduce nitrogen. And this is how we've laid out the next 20 years. It wasn't taken lightly. It's probably about a 1.5 year effort to get to this point, just to make sure we had a well-developed plan and we were focusing on nitrogen removal in the right areas. We are getting a lot of pressure from the Pleasant Bay Alliance that we haven't reduced any nitrogen going to that watershed yet. So we do look at all of that information. We feel like we have really a solid plan ahead of us, though.
Thank you. Sure, if you take the microphone, if you would, please.
That was my question that the moderator just asked him, but he left a couple of questions out. The question about the gating and issues of why it is not a priority. I saw on your slide that, according to your estimates, that that area, which is in the old village, but Mill Pond, the Chatham Harbor area, it showed 245% nitrogen reduction when the sewer is put there. That seemed by far and away the largest reduction of any of the estimates that you have there. So I don't understand. It's one of the most densely populated parts of town. It is surrounded by 2 major bodies of water. Why that is not a priority?
So part of that area is already sewered, but part of it is not. Part of that drainage area is not.
What part is sewered in the old village?
I'm not sure. When you say old village, I'm not sure exactly.
Say Water Street to the lighthouse, all the way down towards Morris Island, none of that area is sewered.
Well, like by draining into Mill Pond, some of that area.
Exactly. That's. I mean, there's into the old Mill Pond. Anyway, the point. What is the gating issue if the largest amount of nitrogen reduction that you have estimated is that part of town? Why is that not a priority?
So it depends on how, I want to say, how much nitrogen has impaired the waterways already. I think a lot of that area is draining towards the ocean, and a lot of our focus is towards the ocean, but a lot of it's towards inland waterways as well and estuaries. So it's about the health of the estuary. So a lot of these things are, although that would reduce a lot of nitrogen, the value may not be as high as reducing the nitrogen in some other inland areas.
I guess I'm trying to understand what are the issues, what are the gating issues, and how is the information, how are these determinations made? So maybe we can follow up separately on.
We certainly can, and I would punt that to my design consultant. I mean, they're the experts in this area, so I don't want to speak out of turn. Thank you.
I would suspect, Mr. Friendly, that the SRAC could coordinate a further discussion with you of where the old village might be, and I'm sure Rob would be cooperative in that regard. Don't go anywhere. A similar question. Parts of downtown Chatham were sewered in the 1970s. Will that section downtown need to be replaced? And if so, is that part of a phase in the future?
So that is part of our ongoing maintenance. Doesn't mean it's sewer expansion, it's sewer replacement. We have lined a small portion of Main Street. We are talking about lining additional portions of Main Street. Some of Main Street may be re-sewered if we have, say, a pump station in one location and the existing capacity of the sewer main is not large enough. We may have to put in a larger sewer main to comply for that. So it is in the folds. This was sewer expansion, this presentation, but there's always ongoing maintenance. We just replaced to rehab the Queen Anne pump station. We just completed the Mill Pond pump station. So those are ongoing issues that we deal with as just the normal course of business, not related to sewer expansion.
Other questions, they don't have to be printed. If you just take the microphone, please, and if there's a particular person, other than Rob, to whom you'd like to address your question, that's fine, too.
Not for Rob. This is just, we live in town on Beersley's Byway, part-time. And in this summer and a little bit last summer, we started noticing this thing called the funk bus coming into town and using the parking lot, which is fine, and we're not party poopers. But I will say that we saw what happened, and we've seen what happened to Nashville, Tennessee. And the last thing we want is party buses going down Main Street with drunk kids in them celebrating wedding parties and screaming and hollering, and open-top buses with drinking. I'm not saying the funk bus is doing that, but that is a possible gateway to that becoming something that could happen at Chatham. And I just think it's personally not what I think we want to see in our town in the summertime. Just
I'm not
put
sure.
that out there.
No, I'm not. I believe the funk bus comes down from Provincetown, but it is not decorated in traditional Chatham appearance or colors. I don't know whether our town manager or our police chief or anyone else who feels brave would like to respond to that. Ms. Goldsmith.
Yeah, Mr. Moderator, thank you. I'm not really sure the town can regulate it. I think maybe I'll have the chief come up. I mean, a certain size bus and weight load on the town roads. But other than that, I'm not really sure what we can do through our general bylaws.
Chief Anderson.
Hi, everybody. Mike Anderson. I'm your police chief. I don't know if I can address that specifically, but who asked the question? If there's a noise complaint, a parking complaint, we can address that. As far as a idling or a parking or a permitted use, I would have to probably direct that to another town department. I don't want to throw any other businesses under the bus at this moment, but there is other shuttle services that offer private paid ticketing to out-of-town locations like the Beachcomber, stuff like that. So, and we do have parking-specific locations downtown for our usually fall tour buses, but they usually creep into town a little bit earlier, and we've seen actually an uptick this year with, you know, the wedding rental buses, the Cape destination buses. We just try to do the best we can and put them in a location where they cause the least amount of impact.
That's not, so my comment isn't tied to the buses.
I'm going to have to ask you to, Chatham TV will bang on the wall if you don't take the mic.
Comment isn't tied to the buses. The buses are buses. That's fine. I don't know much about the funk bus. It looks like it's fun. I just get concerned. I don't know if there's a bunch of drinking on this bus and screaming drunks. Maybe not. Haven't seen that.
Well, there may be.
Right, but that's the kind of thing, I just think if we need to change our bylaws to prevent this, then we need to look at this, because my only concern is Nashville, Tennessee, right? It was Nashville, right? Has been destroyed by this. If you go to Nashville now, you don't even want to be there.
It's the
Open buses,
bachelorette party
screaming
capital
drunks.
of the world, I heard.
Yeah, it's awful.
Right.
And so my concern was, I saw the funk bus, I'm like, okay, this is cool. Buses are fine, but I'm just saying, I just don't know if we have any bylaws yet.
Yeah, there may be some that apply that we could look into
Stop
if-
these kind of crazy
Sure.
things escalating.
Yeah.
Someone could come in and say, well, I'm going to have an open top bus now. Where kids are going to be drinking. They're going to be peddling this thing down the main street, drinking and, you know, what.
Yeah, that's a little bit different, but we're talking about a motor vehicle, and there are town bylaws about open containers in motor vehicles. Limousines, I'm not sure how this specific bus is licensed or permitted, but I can definitely look into that for you and get back to you on that. Yeah.
Thank you, Chief. We won't inquire as to how you became an authority on bachelorette parties, but that's a separate issue.
It's just what I've heard. Thank you.
Further questions for your committee or for town officials? Yes, sir. You take the microphone if you would, please. Either one.
Been a resident for 41 years through my family. Grinder pumps. We've had one for 10 years. Never a single problem. they work fine. Reimbursement for existing grinder pumps is the question.
Mr. Faley.
Thank you. That's one of the finer details we haven't exactly worked through yet. There are kind of two thoughts behind it. One is reimburse the property owner that paid X amount when they installed it. But I know a lot of the invoices we've heard that maybe they received from contractors may not have a grinder pump cost, identified in there. And we don't want to, if you installed one 20 years ago, how many people have receipts from 20 years ago? But we were thinking the other option would be when we negotiate our price, that would be the set price that we would reimburse property owners. Again, we've got a little legwork to do internally, but those are kind of the two options that we're back and forth. You're welcome.
Thank you, Rob. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Mala Meehan, Linden Tree Lane. Another question for Rob. On your map, I noticed that the red areas are all completed, and I'm just wondering what percentage of people have actually hooked up that are in those areas, and how that's compliance is being monitored, and what kind of penalties are being assessed, et cetera.
So in that red area, there are some properties in that red area that, although sewer has been completed, there are a couple of sections where the health department hasn't sent out their notifications yet. Those have just been recently completed and are waiting for the final sign off by DEP on those before we can send out those notifications. So currently, I think we have out of the expansion area, not including downtown that was sewered in the 70s, which I think there were 400 plus properties hooked up then. We have about the capacity of about 900 more parcels that could have hooked up. And out of those, I think there are roughly 700 or so that have hooked up. So there are still 150 to 200 properties that we are working with to try to get them hooked up. It's up to the health department to issue, I believe they have, I don't know if they have fines available, but there are some enforcement regulations that the health department can follow to ensure people hook up. That's correct. It's 2 years.
You could just
from the date.
repeat the question.
So the question was, what's the time frame? How much time do you have to hook up? So once you get the notification from the health department, you have 2 years to hook up. We had a moratorium on grinder pump hookups until a decision was made, which was just recently made at this past town meeting. So I don't know. I'd have to talk to the health department to see if they have to issue kind of a release of that moratorium, so to allow those people to hook up now. Some more internal investigating that we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Holgren.
Yes, John Holgren, although I'm sort of a more or less an abnormal summer resident because I tend to go a lot of these meetings, but there's a couple of things I thought about that might apply to this group. One of them was on social media recently, there was some discussion about as to how well we were doing with the community service officers and the parking tickets. So I was wondering if the chief could give us a little bit of a clue on how we're doing this year. And also the fact that what people may not be aware is that what he's pointed out to me is not all parking spaces downtown are created equal. There are some that are narrower and some that are not. And if you have a very wide vehicle, don't park in front of the Episcopal Church, as I understand it. So that's the first part of it.
Thank you, John. This is the second season where we have had 5 community service officers. 3 out of the 5 are returning for their second season this year, and 2 out of the 3 are returning for their third season this year. So they're pretty experts in their field. Last year was the first year under the new traffic ticketing software rollout. From January 1st until yesterday, 2024, we have issued 1,471 tickets. That same time this year, January 1st until yesterday, that number is increased by 220 to 1,700 parking tickets. Those include the new raised fees for standard and disabled parking spaces.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
The second item that came up was there was a, as far as like the Zero Meeting House Road and that parcel there, when I did some looking up online, the GIS information, when you go in from the map, appears to be somewhat obsolete for that parcel because it's still showing that it's owned by the Catholic Church. So I was just wondering I was just wondering if, how is that synchronized or kept up to date? Because apparently there was some, I couldn't find the parcel numbers and so on didn't match up between the assessor's database and the GIS. So I was wondering if I could get some background on that.
Anyone care to respond? Ms. Goldsmith?
Mr. Moderator, John, we'll look into that. We've owned that property for a couple of years, so I would have expected probably a January, maybe 2025 or 2024, that would have changed, but I'll look into it with the Director of Assessing.
There may be some other properties that be similar situations, so.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In fact, there are. The assessor's maps are not updated perhaps as promptly as we might like. The assessor's field cards tend to be correct, but the maps are not always so. Yes, sir, in the rear.
I'm Mike Jurinsky. I wanted to follow up on the traffic and the parking situation downtown. I don't know if the idea with making paid parking and stuff is just to monetize the traffic that's coming in, or if there's thoughts that it's going to reduce the traffic. But where I live, we go out of town by going up Stage Harbor to the Rotary at Main Street, and that Rotary is not functional in the summer, particularly the weekends, because you get so much traffic coming in Main Street towards downtown that they just clog the Rotary, and they always have the right-of-way, so you have to basically usurp somebody's right-of-way to try to get into the Rotary, or have somebody let you in, and you get traffic backed all the way down to Oyster Pond. It's just a nightmare. So I don't know if there's ways to reduce that flow.
Mr. Chairman Nicastro of our Select Board. Dean's not going to tell you to stay home until Labor Day. I can guarantee that. So.
Yeah, with respect to the parking situation downtown and the idea of charging for it, some of the impetus is monetary. The town of Provincetown has paid parking. In fact, most seaside communities in New England have paid parking. And Provincetown takes in maybe $1 million a year. I don't know the exact number. But the real impetus for it comes from this 2-year examination of the issue of traffic congestion, pedestrian safety, bicycle safety in the downtown area, and the limitations on parking. That was done by the something called the Parking Solutions Working Group, which I alluded to earlier. And that's a group of citizens. We had a member of the SRAC was on it. And 2 select board members, Mr. Dykens and myself, have been on it. And the Cape Cod Commission came in and undertook a very serious study, and they basically concluded that Chatham has enough parking spaces. We just don't have the means or the facility to encourage people to park in the lots that are outside of the downtown, like the community center, the elementary school, and if you charge parking in the downtown lots, and I'm talking about the Orpheum lot, the lot behind the Impudent Oyster, and the town offices lot, that would encourage some turnover. And if people knew that they could park for free elsewhere, and we do have these free parking signs, the thinking is that this would bring fewer vehicles downtown. Part of that requires the ability to shuttle people back and forth to these more distant lots. And that's another recommendation that the parking group is bringing forward to the select board, and that came from the Cape Cod Commission report as The Rotary situation, you're talking about you're talking about the Rotary at Stage Harbor and Old Harbor Road? Yeah. That's a problem, and it's, you know, if you come up with some mechanisms to encourage people not to park downtown, but to take advantage of these other lots, that might help alleviate that. But I mean, the proof will be in the pudding. One other recommendation that has been considered, I can't recall whether we formally adopted it, Jeff can correct me, was time restrictions on parking. It's a lot easier now to have paid parking. You don't have to have a person there checking people in. You can do it on your cell phone, for example. But the Eldridge lot is interesting. That has been paid parking from the beginning, and there's a shuttle service there that the town engages. And one could conceive of the type of shuttle vehicle that they have going up and down Main Street and bringing people into the downtown area who may have parked at the community center. I don't know if that helps answer the address the questions that you asked, but those are the perspectives that went into the recommendations. It hasn't come before the select board yet. That's why I qualified my comments earlier. And we expect to bring it up sometime in September. We're waiting for the final version of the written report from the parking group. But those were the thoughts we had. We also looked at the fish pier as well, by the way, which is another problem. And, you know, that's something that maybe some shuttle work can shuttle service can help with. John Halpern mentioned the alignment of the parking spaces downtown. And I think we recommended that they be marked, so if I remember correctly, which would make it easier, and it would free up some spacing. Another problem downtown is the employees of the businesses, because they all like to come in early and they park on Main Street, some of them, and they park in some of the lots. But that has to be addressed. I know the Chamber of Commerce has been working on an arrangement with the Catholic Church so that some of those employees can park there. But there's a lot into this. We would not be charging, by the way, for parking on Main Street itself. But we considered a lot of things like, should you have Main Street one way? Should you which is not something that appeals to the police department or the fire department. Should you have angle parking on one side only and no parking on the other side? It is difficult, and I live downtown, and I can tell you from my perspective, the last couple of years, it's gotten worse. It's not just the cars, the pedestrians are overwhelming. I mean, we're happy that the businesses are benefiting, and they should. We want to encourage that, but we want to make sure that we preserve and protect the experience of living in Chatham, enjoying Chatham in the summertime. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Dean. Other questions? Yes, Rob.
Yeah, I just wanted to address the roundabout or the rotary question that it isn't well defined as it currently is. It almost seems like the through traffic has the right of way, but it is a traditional rotary that everybody has to yield to whoever's in the rotary already. So there is a project. The state is developing a project. I think it's constructing 2027 to better define the rotary, have better pedestrian access with splitter islands on the approaches, so pedestrians have like a refuge instead of having these really long crosswalks where they're exposed, and it'll also address a bus stop at Veterans Field. I just wanted to update everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to thank you all for coming.
Mr. Moderator, there is a question on the line.
I'm sorry, Kathy.
That's
Ms.
okay.
Lewis, please.
This question comes from Bela Lovins. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. There was only a brief mention of the possibility of paid parking. What consideration, if any, will be made for non-residents who have plates or tags issued to people with disabilities? My concern is that we don't want to limit access to Chatham's main shopping areas for those who cannot enjoy that area without the ability to park there.
Anyone care to respond? Mr. Nicastro?
I mean, the bottom line is that those are very serious considerations, and those will be taken into account when the Select Board receives the report of the working group and tries to decide what to do. The issue of free parking for residents and taxpayers is something that is currently in use at the Eldridge Garage lot. If you have any kind of sticker from this town, whether it's a beach sticker, I guess a recycling sticker, I don't remember what those cost, you can park in the Eldridge lot for free. And you get those as a resident. You have to be a resident or a taxpayer in town to park in the Eldridge lot, and they use those stickers as indicia of whether you satisfy that. But with respect to folks that have disabilities, that's a very serious concern, and we should take that into account, and we will when we discuss this and come up with a plan.
Thank you, Dean. Chief Anderson.
Dean, if I could add to that, the question, this just came up recently. There's a Massachusetts general law. If you display a valid handicap placard and you're the operator or the passenger of the vehicle, or you are a disabled veteran, you are exempt from metered parking in Massachusetts, and that would extend into what we call municipally controlled parking lots, which could be the town beaches. But if you have a disabled placard, or you're a disabled veteran and you roll up on a parking meter anywhere in the Commonwealth, you're exempt.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. With that, I'll turn it back to the chair of the SRAC, Jeff Spalter.
First of all, thank you all so much for coming out this evening and for engaging. Please check out the webpage. We have a link to the useful resources. Hopefully that'll make your lives a bit easier and give you some great information. And again, thanks to this wonderful committee and team and their efforts and commitment to dig into some of the issues and work together. It's been great. So thank you all so much for coming out. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you, Jill, and thank you, Select Board.